By the start of 10th grade, I stood at the edge of the void. God was dead. Revelation had been revealed for the unhinged death cult it really was. There was no plan, no divine blueprint, just the raw fucking chaos of existence staring back. And it was up to me to make something of it. By 16, I was reading Aubrey de Grey and Max More like holy scripture. I devoured every word from FM 2030. I wasn't just into transhumanism. I was baptized in it. The moment I encountered the idea that death could be optional, that biology was not a prison but a platform, we were off to the races. No more waiting for salvation. We were going to build it with our own goddamn hands. But somewhere in that shift, something else happened. Something I didn't understand until much later. The discipline I'd built in the cadets never fully survived my exit. And into that vacuum crept something quieter but more dangerous. Dissociation disguised as strategic patience. I had internalized both exponential thinking and the idea that my own lifespan could stretch across millennia. That perspective made today feel almost irrelevant. I began living for tomorrow, sometimes for 1,000 tomorrows. And while that spared me the burnout of constant urgency, it also numbed me to the present. From then on, my long-game worldview became a refuge I could hide inside, telling myself I was waiting for the right moment when, in truth, I was just drifting. By 2011, I was 17. My focus had shifted almost entirely to philosophy, science, and technology, deliberately avoiding politics after my end-timer worldview collapse in 2010. But I couldn't ignore the rumblings in the streets. Occupy Wall Street caught my attention, not just as a protest, but as a cultural spark. I wasn't deeply involved, but it cracked open a door. Even while steering clear of political deep dives, I recognized that what they were talking about mattered. And it would later shape the direction I took when I re-engaged with politics in college before Bernie. That same year, my curiosity evolved. I wanted to reprogram life itself. Synthetic biology became my grail. I wanted to design organisms like code, engineer immune systems like hardware, and eventually cure aging. Not for glory, but because fuck dying. Dying is a tyrant, and tyranny, no matter the form, must be overthrown. In AP English that year, I wrote a mock doctoral thesis on 3D printing a novel stem cell producing gland. My teacher, Mr. Rhodes, kept me after class to pick at the idea, noting that without some way to control the stem cell production, it could risk becoming cancerous. By 18, I discovered Jacques Fresco and the Venus Project. And it hit me like a freight train that this wasn't just about individual transcendence. It was about redesigning civilization, about building a world that reflects the highest ideals of enlightenment, not the decayed legacy of oligarchs and priests. Fresco wasn't just building cities. He was sketching out blueprints for systemic liberation. Suddenly, my vision expanded from gene therapy to global architecture. Not long after, I entered college, majoring in biotechnology with a minor in philosophy. I was chasing eudaimonia in the most literal sense, human flourishing, not just for myself, but for everyone. The Enlightenment taught me that reason was a path to liberation. Transhumanism showed me that science was the tool. Philosophy gave it meaning. I wanted to be a synthetic biologist, not to get rich, but to wage war on death itself. But I didn't make it to graduation. I dropped out after just under 2 years. Not for lack of ability or passion, but to avoid the lifelong financial shackles of student debt. It was a hard choice, but a tactical retreat. Walking away preserved my freedom to fight another day. One day, in a post-scarcity future where the cost barrier is gone and education is a right, I intend to return and finish what I started. Not just to hold the degree, but to step into the lab and help bring the tools of liberation biology to everyone, free from the grip of market gatekeepers. But science alone wasn't enough. The more I studied technology's potential, the more I saw how capitalism would fucking strangle it. I watched tech get devoured by profiteering parasites. I saw the web become an ad-riddled prison. I saw healthcare tech hoarded by the rich. I saw life itself become another commodity to extract from. That's when I began to pivot. By 19, the old political binaries had collapsed in my mind. I no longer gave a shit about left or right. I cared about liberty, dignity, rationality, and justice. My Enlightenment roots from when I was 12 weren't just intact. They were evolving. I began calling myself a libertarian, not because I worshiped the market, but because I still believed in the sovereignty of the self. But I was no capitalist. My heart beat for the people. Bernie's rise in 2014 wasn't just a political moment. It was a fucking moral awakening. If we were going to manage technologies capable of reshaping reality itself, then capitalism couldn't be trusted to hold the leash. That was the moment I crossed over. I realized that if we wanted a future worth living in, it had to be post-capitalist. That led me straight to Bakunin. I studied classical anarchism, but I didn't want to cosplay the 1800s. I wanted something adapted for now. I began developing what I called Bakunin social anarchism, updated for the 21st century. Fusing Enlightenment ideals, decentralized governance, intersectionality, and transhumanist ethics into a political framework that could survive the singularity without birthing a new God King. It was Enlightenment socialism in its early stages. Still molten, still raw, but already glowing with potential. And then came the dream in 2015, the one I thought would be my real entry point. Build a bong smoke shop. Yeah, sounds funny, but it was the seed. A 3D printed bong company. That would be our ticket into additive manufacturing. The plan was to master the tools at the bottom so we could climb our way up, learn the machines, build the culture, then expand. That's when I came up with Eudaimonia Holdings. It would be the parent company, the architect behind the curtain, a startup that would launch startups, each building toward the same goal, the civilization of the Mantle of Responsibility. And I didn't name it that for branding. I named it that because I meant it. Eudaimonia, the highest form of human flourishing, the Aristotelian ideal of a life well lived, not in hedonism, but in purpose, not in comfort, but in contribution. To build Eudaimonia was to liberate humanity from all artificial chains, poverty, illness, injustice, fear, and the ultimate goal was always to render itself obsolete, to wither into the background like scaffolding once the structure stands. That was always the plan. Not empire, not profit, but a self-destructing corporate vessel designed to destroy capitalism from within by building the post-scarcity transition itself. The dream was to become the anti-Elon, not a cult leader billionaire, but a faceless facilitator of the future, to funnel capital and expertise into building the infrastructure of liberation, and then walk away. I was ready. I was set. I became a trucker in 2018 to self-fund, to build without begging VCs for crumbs. And that's when I met my now fiancée, Rebecca, at the CR England trucking school. Two autistic souls in a neurotypical world. Two exhausted, disillusioned people trying to carve out meaning from the dead concrete of capitalism. We hit the road together, built a life on hope and diesel, and got smacked in the face by the brutal reality of life under late-stage capitalism. The startup dreams faded under 70-hour weeks. The VC path was closed off, but the vision, it never died. It evolved. This isn't a story about success. This is the story about survival. about resilience, about building meaning from nothing, about losing your gods and finding your purpose, from losing your place and building a new one.